Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch 2 could be amazing. We could be looking at a really good generation or era of Pokemon games moving forward, which is amazing. The Switch era of Pokemon is pretty much over. After Legends ZA, I don't think any Pokemon games are going to be on the Switch 1. I'm pretty sure Gen 10 is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I know on the surface level that kind of sounds scary because, a lot of people are like, well, what if I don't have a Switch 2? And what I can say to that is like, by the time Gen 10 comes around, a lot of people probably will be able to have a Switch 2. Now, not all people are going to have a Switch 2, right? Like, the Switch 2 is expensive. Like, trust me, when I pressed pay for my Switch 2, my bank account and my wallet were definitely crying after that purchase. But moving on, definitely after Generation 10, you know what I'm saying? Like, definitely after Gen 10, the Switch era of Pokemon is over. Then we're going to move on to the Switch 2 generation of Pokemon games. So currently what we know now is that it looks like Pokemon games on the Switch 2 are all going to run at 60 FPS and obviously in 4K as well, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just received that free upgrade, which the games actually run great now. It's crazy how much better these games run on the Switch 2. I didn't realize how bad these games ran on my Switch 1 when I first played through these games. It is a night and day difference. It's crazy. Now, Pokemon Legends ZA is also going to be getting a Switch 2 version. It's going to also be on the Switch 1, so if you have a Switch 1 and you're worried about Legends ZA, you are going to be able to play ZA on the Switch 1 still. ZA on the Switch 2 is 60 FPS, 4K, and it looks like it's going to basically run exactly like how Scarlet and Violet are running, which is a good thing. That's really good, and I'm still glad that it is on the Switch 1. And now I know that the graphics look the same. The graphics of ZA and Scarlet and Violet look pretty much the same, but I think moving forward, graphics are going to start changing. Now, I'm not saying like, Pokemon graphics are going to look extremely realistic. That's not really what people want anyways. We don't want Pokemon games to look like real life. We just want something very creative and good. Like, we want good animations all around, for the buildings, the mountains, the background, the floor, not even just like the battle or Pokemon animations. We want good animations and graphics for everything. Obviously, we are going to get more Pokemon games on the Switch 2, and I've made kind of a couple of videos talking about like what games I think are going to be on the Switch 2 as far as Pokemon go. Some things that come to mind right now are like Black and White remakes. Pokemon Black and White are the next games in line for remakes, and they will be on the Switch 2. Gen 5 games were not skipped over and replaced by ZA. Legends ZA, even though it is a Generation 6 game, it's not a remake. It's its own game. It's not a remake. The Gen 5 remakes are still going to be happening. Generation 10 is probably going to be coming out next year, so we can expect that game probably around November of 2026. If you guys are brand new to the channel, and if you don't mind helping me reach my goal of 30,000 subscribers before the end of the summertime, by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and turning on the post notifications so you don't miss all these brand new Pokemon leaks, updates, or just cool random videos like this one. Any support goes an extremely far way, so I just want to say thank you first of all. And join my Discord server. Link to that is down in the description below. You can talk to a lot of awesome people up in there. Alright, back to the video. And as a whole, I think we could just expect to see better Pokemon games that are more thoroughly built. If you haven't seen Game Freak's new game called Beast of Reincarnation, which Game Freak, those are the people responsible for Pokemon, basically. They're pretty much the people that create most Pokemon games. They just announced a trailer or released a trailer for their brand new game that's not a Pokemon game, and the graphics look great. So we know that this company can create a game with insanely cool and unique graphics, and I do think that the Switch 2 is going to open up the possibilities of that. The Switch 2 already seems like it's going to be having some big titles, like Cyberpunk is on it, like that's a big game. Borderlands 4, I believe, is going to be one of the Switch 2 releases coming up whenever that game drops. So the games are going to be bigger and better on the Switch 2, which I'm hoping goes hand in hand with Pokemon, meaning Pokemon games are going to be like just so insanely thoroughly built with endless possibilities. I have to reiterate, I don't expect these Pokemon games to be like the most realistic graphics of all time. I am just expecting a really fun experience, really cool, unique animations that still feel like Pokemon. Like, here's a bunch of Pokemon 2D games right here. Like, these all look so awesome, and they just scream Pokemon games, in my opinion. Now, every single game on the Switch, in my opinion, has been extremely controversial in a way. Like, every single game has a different look. Every game has a different style, which is not a bad thing. I think that's pretty cool that they've been experimenting on all the different styles. I feel like they didn't have like a signature style almost, if that makes any sense. So I feel like the Switch 2 could bring its own unique signature style in a modern version of Pokemon games. What I've always wanted to see from some of the modern Pokemon games like on the Switch is dive. I want to be able to dive underwater again like we were able to in some of the classic Pokemon games. And the thing is, with the Switch 2, we hopefully will be able to do that because the Switch 2 is going to be able to, have more data or whatever, read more data, it's going to be more capable to have a bigger map. I don't think the map should be too big. I definitely don't think they should go crazy with the size of the map, although it would be cool to have a pretty, like a really big Pokemon map. Scarlet and Violet were actually pretty big. I think that map is pretty decent, but the thing that comes with that, like the issue with all the big maps, is that you have to figure out a way to not make it feel so dead and barren in some areas. You know, you have to have all the big cities, you have to have a lot of things moving around the map and everything like that, which thankfully the Switch 2 is going to be able to do that. Like, more things can appear and show up and move around on the screen, which is really good. Here's the thing about open world Pokemon games as well. Nintendo and Game Freak are new to the open world Pokemon experience. I'm pretty sure there was an interview basically where I think it was the CEO of Pokemon. I've tried to look it up. I can't find this anywhere online for some reason, but I know I saw it. I used to have a screenshot of it and I deleted it. I don't know where to find it again. But essentially what came from this interview is that Pokemon games, the creators have always wanted it to be an open world experience, but they just never had the technology to really do that. The Switch allowed them to do that, but it's like, you know, they mastered Pokemon on, like, you know, the Game Boy and the DS. 3DS Pokemon games are pretty fun, a little controversial, but you could kind of see the cycle of like where they're trying to start with open world Pokemon games that led all the way up to Scarlet and Violet. You could definitely see, like, generation to generation, how we got more into an open world Pokemon game, which is pretty cool to see. And I do think that the Switch 2, they are going to master open world Pokemon games. Now, I know that's a bold claim to make, but I think it's true. Now, I'm hoping it's with Generation 10, although I don't know, it could be like Generation 11, maybe 12, I don't know, maybe we won't even see Generation 12 on the Switch 2. I feel like we will, though. I feel like we'll see Gen 10, 11, and 12, but it's possible that we won't. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, Generation 10 is coming out next year, and then let's just say they keep going with this 3-year cycle, then that means Generation 11 will come out in 2029, and then 2032 should be Generation 12, which is crazy, but I would assume that the Switch 2 would still be Nintendo's main console by then. Obviously, we'd probably have like a Switch 2 Pro or like an OLED or something like that, but I think that the Switch 2 will still be around then, and then probably, you know, the following year, it would be time for a new Nintendo console, which, dude, what are they going to do? The Switch 3? I don't know how they're ever going to top the Switch. I have no idea what they could possibly do next as far as consoles go, but I do think that they're working hard on Generation 10, especially since we've had so many complaints over the last couple of years of Pokemon, and they know that they're aware of that stuff, which is why we've had 3 years of no Pokemon game, was essentially what I'm thinking. So I think that open world Pokemon games are going to be mastered on the Switch 2, and like I said, I hope it's Generation 10. Generation 10 already seems like it's going to be a pretty cool game based on the leaks that we do have. If you don't know about the leaks, I've talked about it a lot on this channel, so if you want to check out some videos on my channel about Gen 10, I've talked a lot about it, so there's not too much information just yet of Generation 10, but we do have enough to kind of like have a little bit of hype about it. Like, I'm personally hyped about Generation 10 of Pokemon. And if it is a big map, I hope that it's very alive. Like, I just want a Pokemon game that has an open world map that feels alive. I actually love open world Pokemon games. I think it's super cool, and I never was a big fan of open world games up until, like, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And now I do think Pokemon games in an open world sense are going to be super cool. Like, Legends Arceus was a great open world Pokemon game. Scarlet and Violet were still super fun. I still really enjoyed my playthrough of Scarlet and Violet. It just all the bugs and glitches and stuff that, you know, kind of affected my overall score, I guess, of the game, even though now those are fixed, but I don't know. It's a couple years later, so I'm tempted to replay Scarlet and Violet one day, though. Maybe I will soon. We're definitely just gonna build upon what the Switch 1 did with Pokemon in just a better sense, I guess, for the Switch 2, just because the Switch 2, it is a Switch. Obviously, it's the Switch 2, so it's still gonna be the same kind of thing, essentially. It's just way better, and it could do more. It could play better games, it could play bigger games, which is a good thing. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. If I missed anything that you were thinking about, like, that we could see for the future of Pokemon, as far as just, like, you know, how the gameplay is and what we can expect from Pokemon, leave a comment down below. I would love to chat with you. I'd love to see your thoughts and theories about the future of Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch 2. If you are a real one watching this far in the video, comment down below your favorite Pokemon of all time, just to let me know that you're watching this far in the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Turn on those post notifications so you don't miss Pokemon leaks, news, updates, or my live streams. Hope you guys all have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Some